Right, Jeff, we're back here now with Ken Jelbart working his dog Kora, K-O-R-A. Ken came into the top 20 with a score of 88, which would have been likely to be the bottom score. So the bell's gone and the dog's been cast to the left. Often these dogs have a favourite mode of travel, and it's difficult to train them to go the opposite way to their favourite mode of travel. There's a good cast. We'll see where he stops.
Pippin Hurricane, we heard scored 93.
Yes. $188. Yeah. That may not be the top score for the top 20 though.
Mm.
Well, the cast went well. The dog stopped the point of control, but for the lift the sheep decided to run to the west, and now they're running around. Ken will not be happy, but Kora's trying to get to the head to stop them running. Finally done so, but they won't stop, and the sheep are very close to the fence now. Ken will be very careful to keep Kora back so he doesn't cross. You would have heard, Jeff, that a cross when the dog comes between the trailer and the sheep, it's a disqualification in an open maiden trial. The rationale behind that is this, that the dogs are by nature heading dogs, and if they go to the head and then their nature is to bring the sheep to the trailer. The theory is that if the dog gets between the sheep and the trailer, they are then forcing them away, not bringing them to them.
Right.
So it's a fault. But you will see on the TV that Kora's gone from the western side of the ground over to the eastern side to follow the sheep. They now seem to be under a degree of control, and they're moving quite perfectly and in a straight line to the delivery area.
Coming in quite nicely, aren't they?
They are indeed. Kora's behind them, keeping them moving, although they've stopped now, and Ken said to the dog, sit. And we spoke about the reason for that in previous discussions.
Yes, but let's recap it because there might be some new viewers.
Essentially, the sheep are in a flight or fight mode when they see the dog. And if the dog is on the ground and low, there's less threat to the sheep, and they calm down or don't feel as threatened. Well, they're almost in the delivery area. Kora's working back 5 meters from them, so the dog has a presence there. Again, Ken has told Kora to sit and move only slightly. Right, the sheep are in the delivery area, but on Ken's left-hand side. And contrary to the weather forecast, we're getting a breeze.
And that's lovely. Very welcome indeed.
Kora has a reasonable presence. She's able to work quite some distance off and still have the sheep react to her. Ken's trying to get the sheep to move to the western side of the delivery area, so they line up with the corridor. They're on his left-hand side now. He wants them round on his right-hand side, and Kora's doing that. He can keep the sheep in the delivery area as long as he chooses. Mm-hmm. And traditionally, if the sheep had blind or something like that, the trailer could challenge the sheep and asking the judge to intervene, because if there's one with a blind eye, it means they can't see the dog. So traditionally this was the time that the trailer could say to the judge, this isn't fair with the sheep I've got, Well, they've gone from the delivery area off to the eastern side of the corridor, but Ken's walking.
Does that still happen at times that the trialer will challenge the sheep?
Well, most certainly, if the sheep haven't been wicked, that means they're clear of the wool around their eyes, and one may have a bad eye. It does happen, and it's up to the judge to decide either to continue and see how they go, because it may not be very bad, or alternatively to say certainly come off the ground and get fresh sheep and have a rerun.
And that can happen.
Yes. But the way in which the sheep have been presented here today, they've been very well presented. Ken's moving them down the corridor, a couple of course points coming off, but otherwise flowing reasonably well. Kora's able to move them. Ken sent Kora well out to the east, right around, to get behind the sheep to move them. And again, Kora's sitting, now just moving quietly. Ken might have left them behind, but the sheep are moving now reasonably well and still within the corridor. Ken's around the first winding peg, as are the sheep. Clear of it, still in the corridor.
Now, if the competitor decides to stop and stand at the winding peg, what's the implication of that?
Well, first of all, there's a 1 point deduction, but the rationale is that depending where the sheep are, when you get to the winding peg, and you know your dog, you may want to spend some time working the sheep to be effective. Ken has stopped at the second winding peg so that he can bring the sheep up to him and doesn't lose a point. But he's lost a point by standing at the peg. But he was more worried about the dog controlling the sheep and getting the flow smoothly. And the only places where you can stop on the ground are at the beginning and at the rings around the obstacles and at the two winding peaks. Otherwise you've got to keep on moving. And I saw a marvellous trial about 20 years ago, was in the second winding peg, and his sheep had gone around the first winding peg on the wrong way.
Right.
And he'd started to walk, so he had to walk until the next winding peg. And he had such great capacity over his control of the sheep. From that point, he could control the dog to unwind around the first winding peg and bring them to him. And Ken has got through the race quite successfully and without too much effort. And he's now decided to start walking. Kora has them under control. Just within the corridor. Ken's a very experienced trialer, and he's a member of the Council of Victoria. Kora's got them moving very quietly. Coming up to the bridge, they're about 10 metres away. Ken's about to step into the ring, and the sheep are facing towards the bridge, not yet in the wings, but getting there. All quiet on the eastern front right now. But in sheep trialling, anything can happen.
That little dog crouching low,
Yes.
and it looks like there might be a smooth entry up onto the bridge.
Yes. Will Kora keep on going? Because they're starting to hesitate. They're coming off now. Well done, Kora. They didn't hesitate to go up the bridge. That's no small feat for little dogs. They came off the bridge very neatly, still on course, wanting to eat again. Kora's got to bring them round, tuck them in to get them on course. Yes, they're tucked in. Ken's now walking. By him walking when they were right there, there was a tendency to draw the sheep with him.
Now this is at the point where, as we were discussing earlier today, I was having a chat with Neil Croxon from Dubbo. He's a competitor, and he was saying that about this point on the course, the sheep have a tendency to want to turn to the left and head back to the pen. They know.
Yes, and it's unusual that earlier during the trial, when the sheep came out, they would run to the west, which was away from their home and their fellows. No rationale in their behaviour, except they must know what they're doing. Few others do. But he's almost in the ring. The sheep have been on course all the way, moving quietly and consistently. Ken will be happy with his run so far. He's in the ring. The sheep are about 3 metres away from the open of the pen. They're milling around. Stop, they're just looking at Kora, starting to move. Ken wants to bring him around so they don't go around the southern part of the gate, which they want to do, because they see an opening. Kora's got them turning slowly towards the opening of the pen, sufficiently on side to keep them in and in the pen. They're now facing the right way in the pen. Ken's waiting for them to settle. He's now starting to move. He's going to close the gate. Let's see what Kora does about it. Yes, Kora's kept the gate opening.
Well done,
Closes,
Ken.
protected.
While I'm waiting for Ken's score, I have been very nicely reminded that there's scones with